In a quiet little town nestled in a valley surrounded by rolling hills, there lived a kind-hearted woman named Mrs. Thompson. She had always loved animals, but dogs held a special place in her heart. Mrs. Thompson, now in her late 60s, had spent her life caring for dogs of all shapes, sizes, and the locals often referred to her as the dog whisperer because of her extraordinary ability to connect with and care for her canine companions. Her home, a modest cottage with a large backyard, had been adapted over the years to accommodate her growing family of dogs. There were cozy beds in every room, dog toys scattered around, and a kitchen stocked. Mrs. Thompson had created a haven where dogs could heal, both physically and emotionally, before finding their forever homes. One autumn day, while walking through the local park, Mrs. Thompson came across a stray dog. The dog was small, with matted fur and eyes that spoke of a rough life. Mrs. Thompson could see the fear in the dog's eyes, but she also saw something else, a spark of hope, perhaps, or a longing for a kind touch. She sat down on a bench nearby and simply waited, allowing the dog to approach her on his own terms. Over time, the dog edged closer, drawn to the gentle woman who sat. The dog sniffed the air cautiously, then, with a quick dart, snatched the food and retreated a few steps. Mrs. Thompson didn't move, didn't speak, just smiled softly and waited. After several more pieces of chicken and much more patience, the dog finally allowed Mrs. Thompson to gently scratch behind his ears. It was a moment of trust, fragile and tentative, but it was a start. Mrs. Thompson named him Rusty, after the color of his fur, and brought him home with her that day. Rusty's journey to recovery was not easy. At first, he was fearful of loud noises and sudden movements, often cowering in the corners of rooms. He didn't trust the other dogs and kept to himself, never quite believing that he was safe. But Mrs. Thompson was patient. She gave Rusty space when he needed it, but was always nearby with a soft word or a gentle touch. She understood that healing took time and that Rusty needed to learn that he was loved. Every day, Mrs. Thompson would sit with Rusty, reading aloud from her favorite books or simply talking to him about her day.